Raymond, do stay with us as we move next from the United States and over to Europe for our next story. And the European Union has made clear that conditions are not yet right to engage in direct talks with Russia's President Vladimir Putin over the ongoing war in Ukraine. This comes after the leaders of France and Italy suggested that Europe should re-engage with Moscow in pursuit of a negotiated settlement. However, the EU is taking a cautious approach, emphasising that any dialogue must happen under the right circumstances. Speaking from Brussels, EU spokeswoman Paula Pino said that while talks aren't possible at this stage, the hope is that they can happen in the future and help bring peace to Ukraine. Her comments underline that although diplomatic engagement remains a long-term goal, the immediate priority is to continue support for Ukraine amid the conflict. Let's take a listen in.
Unfortunately, we're not seeing any signs by President Putin to be engaging in such talks. So we're not there yet. But at some point, we would hope indeed that there will be some such talks that will finally lead to peace in Ukraine.
Raymond, it's Putin's long-term criticism of the Europeans that they want this war to keep going. What do you make of this decision by the European Union, this statement by the European Union? We, of course, don't know Moscow's outlook on this, that they won't engage with Vladimir Putin. Do you think that's stopping them from negotiations going further?
Well, I don't think that it really does stop from negotiations going further. It seems to me that the remarks from the EU are really a reflection of the need to build the prerequisites before you have a conversation between the leaders at the very top. This has been the way in which diplomacy has been conducted historically, and particularly since World War II and the formation of the United Nations, the EU, and NATO. This is really a reflection, it seems to me, of the opposition from the EU to the approach of Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, which has been a transactional approach like a real estate deal, where you get the two leaders, two owners, if you will, together. They have a conversation, and out of that comes a transaction in which you get a deal and you go forward. Unfortunately, that real estate model does not apply to international relations. Sure, you have to have summit leadership talks at some point, but you have to have a basis for those to produce long-term peace and prosperity. So I don't see the remarks from the EU as saying, no, diplomacy doesn't have a role, but it is that a rejection of this paradigm, this model, that you can just have transactional approaches and those are going to solve world problems. That is not the history of the world. And going forward, we have to get back to some semblance of using expertise, foreign ministries and diplomats being involved have a role to play. It's not just a matter of Putin and Trump getting together and the deal is done, or the model of summit diplomacy has a role, but it has to have a foundation, and that foundation is not there because President Putin doesn't want it to be there. He wants to reestablish the old Russian Empire, which became the Soviet Union, and that is his measure of greatness. Unfortunately, a transactional approach with a person who has that view just does not work. So we have to get back to waging peace like we wage war, to have a strategy, to have principles, and to have partners. And it's going to be difficult to get back to that, but I think the world can, and we will work our way through this extremely dangerous time.
Braeman Vickery, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking the time. We finish this hour with news